This episode of News Dump is sponsored by ExpressVPN, and we will talk about them later, but first, let's take one hell of an entertainment news-filled dump.
Yes. First of all, we do have quite an update regarding MoviePass.
Oh, good.
A company that, despite being essentially dead for nearly 2 months, still finds itself in our news feeds for being terrible on a damn near weekly basis. But instead, we should probably start with what is undoubtedly the biggest entertainment news of the week. Spider-Man has been officially cut out of the MCU just as fast that he had swung into it, I guess. And he'll once again belong entirely to Sony Pictures, who has squandered its use of the character for years.
But before we get into everything that's happened with the announcement and all the details that have come out since, we should probably let you know that we're pretty sure we're on the same page as all of you. Disney and Sony striking a deal years ago to bring Spider-Man into the MCU and also lend their talents to the production of the standalone movies was a great decision for the character.
We agree.
Possibly the best. It not only made all the movies that Tom Holland was a part of better, but was also a rare alliance between what would be considered rival studios, which allowed them to work together to do what is best for the character, regardless of who owned the rights. It should go without saying that both companies made a hell of a lot of money off this deal, and as fans, we all got some great films and appearances out of it.
Speaking of that original deal, it's pretty important that we let you know what exactly that deal consisted of before we get into which company looks like the bad guy this week. According to one of the first articles regarding this initial deal from Variety in 2015, Marvel Studios won't pay Sony Pictures for the rights to put Spider-Man in Captain America Civil War, the Avengers franchise, or its other superhero films as part of a new partnership with the studio, according to sources with knowledge of the deal. At the same time, Marvel won't receive a cut of the box office for any of Sony's films that feature Spider-Man. Sony won't receive a percentage of the revenue Disney makes from Marvel's films that have Spider-Man either. They also added that there may be some opportunities for Marvel to benefit financially from the Sony films with payments tied to certain box office milestones.
So basically, Sony wouldn't get paid for the MCU films, Disney wouldn't get paid for the standalone Sony films, which ended up being Homecoming and Far From Home. Both studios would, however, potentially have made money off of meeting certain box office goals. And with how successfully each of these movies featuring Spider-Man has been so far, we would assume that both studios made some of that bonus money. In addition to the movie's profits, Marvel also maintained control of profits made off the character through merchandise and video games. And they do own the character. So helping Sony revamp the character and make it more popular than ever obviously helped Marvel immensely on that side of things. All in all, the original deal was pretty great for both parties, but maybe a little bit better financially for Disney/Marvel. Now we fast forward to this week where, seemingly out of nowhere, news broke that Sony and Marvel would be ending their partnership, effective immediately, and that Sony would take back the overall movie rights to the character.
So no more MCU movies, no more hand-picked writers and directors from Marvel Studios, no more input on how the character should be used, and apparently just retconning any previous ties to the MCU. It's going to be very weird to see how the MCU pans out after this, because you would assume that he was going to be a big part going forward.
Yeah.
Disney and Marvel, they're getting divorced. And yes, Spider-Man, this is your fault. Just like when you inadvertently killed your uncle.
You get no Christmases.
The reason, according to multiple sources, despite the fact that both companies keep giving different excuses for it, is that Disney was seeking a new deal for the character and was requesting a 50-50 split on all future Spider-Man standalone films. This would seem to be a result of their work on the projects, resulting in Far From Home becoming Sony Pictures' highest grossing film of all time. They just set them up for it. They handed it to them. Now, Sony is telling a different story.
Yeah, so in an officially released statement, Sony Pictures said the following. Much of today's news about Spider-Man has mischaracterized recent discussions about Kevin Feige's involvement in the franchise. We are disappointed, but respect Disney's decision not to have him continue as a lead producer of our next live-action Spider-Man film. We hope this might change in the future, but understand that the many new responsibilities that Disney has given him, including all their newly added Marvel properties, do not allow time for him to work on IP they do not own. Kevin is terrific, and we are grateful for his help and guidance and appreciate the path he has helped put us on, which we will continue. Basically, Sony thinks that because of the recent Fox acquisition and all of the Marvel characters that come with it, Marvel and Feige won't have enough time to focus on the child they have together, Spider-Man, which, in our opinion, is sounds like bullshit.
Yeah, there's certainly no shortage of talent on the Disney Marvel Studios side of things. So
no, you don't understand. Kevin Feige is the only person on Earth who's ever read a comic book.
So
he's our Rosetta Stone for this kind of thing.
Their response, it also seems more like an attack on Marvel, who seemed to allow the news to break first, causing a monumental amount of backlash from fans online, which was pointed directly at Sony for not just paying whatever they could in order to keep Spider-Man in the MCU and allow Marvel to help with the character. So this is where it gets hard, because technically Sony is well within their rights to do whatever they want with the character regarding him being in their movies. And the new deal that Disney was proposing would be a huge hit to the studio financially when you consider that the previous deal let them keep 100% of those standalone films. On the other hand, Disney knew the position that they were in with Marvel fans, and they thought they had the ability to probably strong-arm Sony into whatever deal that they proposed because they knew what the online reaction would be. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah. So both sides, as most large media conglomerates and otherwise, both sound like they kind of suck. And neither side has caved at this point, and it looks like Sony's going to be moving forward with the character without any help or connection to Marvel Studios, and currently has at least 2 more films in development, which sound like they're going to be real weird. Also, the director of the first 2 standalone films, Homecoming and Far From Home, John Watts, has not officially signed on to any of the next 2 films. So, also, according to The Hollywood Reporter, Tom Holland has the option for 1 more movie with Sony if he wants to continue. But outside of that, he may be done because of all this.
Yes.
Also, any plans that Marvel Studios had for Holland's Spider-Man in Phase 4, those are dead, or seem to be at this point. Having said all of that, Sony did recently produce one of the best Spider-Man films of all time, Into the Spider-Verse, without any help from Marvel Studios. So there's hope for the character, just not the one you know from the MCU. The one that you were just starting to get to know.
Even someone posted a tweet that Tom Holland's dad was just like, "Save Spider-Man."
Yeah.
I'm sure Tom Holland's probably pretty upset.
I would be.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, man? You're all so greedy.
Yeah. Well, also in what has become a new tradition for people online, there have not only been plenty of boycott Sony hashtags, but also a new event created where participants have RSVP'd to storm Sony and bring Spider-Man back to the MCU. It's Bodie McBoatface all over again. There's also dozens and dozens of memes relating to people's obvious displeasure over this whole thing. Will there be enough pressure from fans to convince Sony to strike a deal that probably isn't in the best interest of their accountants and shareholders? We're not sure. At this point, it looks unlikely, but I mean, technically anything could happen. The unthinkable has already happened once. See,
but they were at a very weak point when
Yes.
they signed that deal. They had recently been hacked by North Korea and had all their dirty laundry aired out. It was a very, not a great time for Sony Pictures. They were ready to step up to the table.
But then Marvel helps build you right back up, and what do? You walk away. And I know the deal is not great. That's why it's hard to really take a side here. It just kind of sucks overall.
Yeah. Anyways, before we get into the rest of the episode, including the recent MoviePass fuck-up and a few more tidbits, let's take a moment to thank this week's sponsor, ExpressVPN. If you're traveling abroad this summer, there are a lot of things on your checklist to pack, but what's probably missing is the one app that's going to keep you safe and secure online while you're away, ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN doesn't just encrypt your data while you surf the internet on public airport and hotel Wi-Fi. It even lets you stream and access content that normally would have been blocked in that country that you're in. With ExpressVPN, you can unblock all your favorite websites and have access to the internet just like you would if you were home.
ExpressVPN runs in the background of your computer or phone, and then you just use the internet as you normally would. You download the app, you click connect, and voila, you are protected. ExpressVPN is fast as hell, it costs less than $7 a month, and it comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. ExpressVPN also uses new cutting-edge technology called Trusted Server to make sure there are no logs of what you do online. It's time to stop the hackers, Big Brother, and internet companies from grabbing all that data and stopping you from going to your favorite websites when you're away. Take back your online privacy with ExpressVPN and protect your online activity today. To find out how you can get 3 months for free by going to expressvpn.com/newsdump. That is expressvpn.com/newsdump for 3 months free with a 1-year package. Visit expressvpn.com/newsdump to learn more.
Speaking of protecting your important personal information, MoviePass has done another oopsie-doopsie despite having their entire service on hold since early July, as they apparently continue to work on whatever their new version of the app is.
We are hard at work.
If it even exists.
Yeah.
Earlier this month, it was reported that MoviePass had been accessing the user accounts of what they consider to be power users. and changing their passwords in order to stop those people from seeing the latest blockbuster movies.
Yeah, a real dick move.
Hey, you're taking a little bit too much of that free money. That's the entire, thing that our product.
We said you could have a little bit, not everything.
So now it looks like they've accidentally leaked thousands of their users' credit card numbers and whatnot, because despite being able to go in and change a bunch of members' passwords without them knowing, they couldn't be bothered to even add a password to a server containing a whole bunch of credit card information, as well as card information relating to MoviePass's own debit cards, which are used to pay for movies. Great job.
So according to a recent article from TechCrunch, a security researcher, quote, found an exposed database on one of the company's many subdomains. The database contained, quote, 161 million records at the time of writing and growing in real time. Many of the records were normal computer-generated logging messages used to ensure the running of service, but many also included sensitive user information, such as MoviePass customer card numbers. TechCrunch then reviewed a sample of 1,000 records and said that a little over half contained unique MoviePass debit card numbers. Each customer card record had the MoviePass debit card number and its expiration date, the card's balance, and when it was activated.
In addition to the MoviePass card information out there, they also found records containing customers' personal credit card numbers and their expiration date, which included billing information, that's, addresses and postal addresses. Uh-oh.
It's a lot.
They also added that the database contained email addresses and password data related to failed login attempts, and that it had been exposed for months with no encryption on any of the records contained within.
So basically every bit of information that you gave MoviePass was potentially stored on this database that was not secure and had no password on it and didn't use encryption. Maybe one of their biggest oopsies, I guess I would say. This has got to be pretty high on the scale.
Up there.
Except for losing all that investor money.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, their user numbers are probably pretty low at this point, but they were really doing gangbusters there for a while, and all those people's data is probably in there too.
Yeah, but at this point, it's like they should just send out a notification to people that are like, hold on, do you still use our service? We're actually probably not sure because we are dumbasses every step of the way.
Yeah.
But if you are, chances are that you probably have all your information leaked.
Yeah. So. Anyway, the researcher who had originally discovered the database emailed MoviePass CEO, man in a barrel, Mitch Lowe, but didn't hear back. And then the company hadn't shut the database down until TechCrunch reached out to them. Only then did they bring the database offline and release a public statement about the vulnerability, which basically consisted of, we're sorry. Did they have the dog write it?
No. That dog, they couldn't even afford that dog after everything went down.
Yeah, the dog quit. The dog's working for AMC now.
Yeah. Moving on to some other entertainment news tidbits from this week. It looks like whether you were secretly praying for a new Matrix movie or not, we're all getting one.
All right.
But at least it's not going to be some new reboot version of it that the studio's trying to cash in on for a new generation of would-be Matrix fans, because they're getting Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss to reprise their roles as Neo and Trinity in Matrix 4.
Well, it's not The Matrix rebooted?
I don't know. I'm sure they'll come out with a much better name in the following months. But it's also going to be written, directed, and produced by Lana Wachowski. Regarding the announcement of this new sequel 20 years after the release of the first film, Lana stated, "Many of the ideas Lily and I explored 20 years ago about our reality are even more relevant now. I'm very happy to have these characters back in my life and grateful for another chance to work with my brilliant friends. If for some reason you still haven't seen the first film, you'll have a chance to see it again in theaters because it's being re-released starting on August 30th because of its 20-year anniversary. So definitely see it on the big screen if it's your first time."
20 years. Jesus.
Time flies.
Yeah. Moving on now. You may not remember the first time this sporting league existed, and you may not even remember the announcement a while back that said it was coming back. But on Thursday this week, the WWE made it clear that they're actually bringing back the XFL next year thanks to an announcement regarding the teams and cities who will be involved, as well as their logos, which all look like they were designed by people working for Blizzard's Overwatch League.
Yeah.
Starting in February of next year, just as the National Football League is winding down, the XFL will launch once again with the following teams: the Los Angeles Wildcats, New York Guardians, the Dallas Renegades, the Houston Roughnecks, the St. Louis Battlehawks, the Seattle Dragons, the Tampa Bay Vipers, and the Washington Defenders.
It's very extreme. That's why the X is right there in the name.
These are like just the most absurdly generic sports teams names I have ever seen in my life. This is like a video game that lost its licensing like 2 days before launch and was just like, fuck,
No, they put it into the algorithm like the old football game where it just came up with fake team names.
Steve McDykel.
Yeah. These team names are like worse than even like the Arena Football League teams.
Yeah.
By the way,
none of these are even relevant to the cities.
No. There's no Vipers in Tampa Bay as far as maybe Busch Gardens. Okay, I could be wrong. They could have Vipers at Busch Gardens.
They should have really embraced it into like the Tampa Bay Florida Men.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
Like the Hollywood Elites.
Mm-hmm. According to Deadline, the XFL promises to reinvigorate the game, much as its predecessor did, including a sped-up game with a shorter play clock. And it says that you'll be able to watch it on ESPN, ABC, and Fox. There hasn't been a draft for players yet, but the league plans to hold one in October, with training camp starting in January.
Are you a tough enough dude to get the shit kicked out of yourself in the XFL?
The idea for this whole league is basically NFL Blitz, but in real life.
Yeah.
Anyways, they're really, they're running on a very short amount of time to get this whole thing completely launched. So interesting to see how it turns out. And by the way, if you aren't aware, the league has already completely failed once before. Its initial run only lasted one season of football. And with the shift in attitude from many traditional football viewers toward being at least somewhat concerned for the life-altering injuries sustained by players in regular leagues, kind of makes us wonder if this will all just be a huge waste of time and money for everyone involved. Then again, there's also the chance that this league will cater exactly to the type of people who don't give a shit about the health of the players in the field and are tired of all the sissy-ass rules and regulations that the NFL has enacted over the years. We have no idea, but I think even with a lot of people being excited about it, probably not going to last very long. As far as I remember, in the year 2000 or 2001, people were pretty hyped about it. Wrestling was still obviously very big.
Because we thought it was going to be like NFL Blitz.
Yeah, they could put whatever name they wanted on their jersey.
Yeah, it ended up just being like
really lame.
Not very good.
Yes.
Anyway, finally today, if you want to curse your eyeballs and come to the sad realization that The Simpsons is finally, truly a comedy graveyard, check out the official clip featuring a West Side Story themed song and dance number where Donald Trump battles the Squad and then spend the rest of your night throwing up because of just how bad it is. This was like...
It is comedy cemetery material, like, to a T.
I was saying this earlier, like, I occasionally, the mainstream media gives me a glimpse at, like, how MAGA hat people, like, see the rest of American society. And, like, this video gave me that. I was like... It's
a perfect example of that.
Like, you know what? I like Donald Trump just to spite the fact that this video exists.
It is the lamest goddamn thing in the world. I don't really have much to say about it aside from that. The link's in the description. Obviously, we can't show it.
It's like something they would produce for like the Emmys, but not even that good.
Yeah. Anyway, stay tuned for a new episode of Weekly Weird News coming soon. We're sorry it was a short week for us content-wise. We had 2 life events blocking out both weekends before, the one leading up to this week and the one leading out of it. So we hope that you understand. We should be good to go next week with a bit more for you, including another exclusive podcast. In the meantime, though, be sure to check out this week's episode of Tech News Day, and we will see you very soon. Be sure to leave a comment in the description, or in the comments below about who's wrong, Disney or Sony? And then fight it out.
What would your XFL name be?
Yeah. What's the name that you would put on the back of your jersey?
Eat ass.
Okay, Shibby. Bye.